Hello, it's wonderful to be able to spend this time with you. Today I'm covering Chapter 50 or Day 50 of the Tao of Joy Every Day. It's entitled The Fourth Bun, and the tagline I've chosen is, "It is a process." I just want to briefly explain where I've been for the last 3 years or so there. I became very ill, but I have been able to work myself back into good health, and am feeling very grateful for everything that I've learned over the past 3 years recovering. And I hope to be able to bring what I've learned as I go through the rest of Derek's wonderful book and do my best to share my insights and what I've learned from it. And hopefully these presentations will help you, because that's truly what I wish for whoever happens to be listening. Okay, so before I jump into this first slide, I just want to point out something quickly. My 9-year-old daughter added the little yellow and white lines on the slide background, and it really does create a space effect. That was her suggestion, and she created that, and I really like it, so I think I'm just going to keep it as the background going forward. She's a wonderfully creative person, and gosh, I just love her so much. But jumping into the slide here now, the attainment of enlightenment. Oftentimes, people, either on purpose or because they truly believe that they have, profess to have attained enlightenment or some kind of mystic or spiritual skill that they have not. Best example I can think of this is a bit on the internet called The Pleasures of Drowning. And it depicts this old man who runs a martial arts school and has many students. And he believes that he can stop their attacks by simply swatting the air near them. And you see these students all dressed in white gis and wearing black belts, I think, for the most part, fly at him, full force attack, and he simply swats the air near them, and they fall to the ground, sometimes writhing in pain. And both the students and the old man believe that he has this ability. And so he puts out a challenge for anyone to take him on in a fight. And then the next thing we see is this young man who has clearly some martial arts training, nothing like Bill or Ed, but clearly some training. And he proceeds to attack, and he hits the old man in the face. And the old man knows he's been hit. He felt the contact. And there's a moment where he just sort of, he almost has a feeling of disbelief. You can see it. And then, the referee sort of pushes them apart, and then they start again, and the young man attacks again, and this time more forcefully, and the old man is sort of beaten to the ground. And in that moment, both the self-delusion of the old man and truly the self-delusion of the students as well, all of the self-delusion actually, is shattered. And so I often think of that as I move through my life and encounter things. Because let's be honest, we live in a society where we're always being bombarded with the message to buy this to attain weight loss instantly, or to cure your ailments, or to go see someone who has this ability to heal you with spiritual crystals, or it runs the gambit. But there's a lot of this out there, and some of the practitioners are like the old man, that they truly believe that they have this ability when they don't. Okay, so my first bullet point here is often people claim to have attained enlightenment quickly or even suddenly. I can think of another interesting case of a woman who truly thought she had attained enlightenment, and she believed this because she had claimed that thoughts had stopped coming into her head and she was simply living in a state of truly just being present. And she was brought before someone with some true spiritual wisdom. And he asked her, he goes, "So you have no thought that's coming into your head?" And she affirmed that that was correct. And he said, "Okay, well, let's wait and see if a thought comes." And he says, "Don't worry, we'll wait as long as it takes." And he sits there for a few seconds and he says, "Did any thought come in?" And she sort of said, well, maybe. And so he said, well, let's wait and make sure. And sure enough, in simply questioning and waiting for her to, really focus onto whether or not she's had a thought or not, because anyone who's has ever engaged in meditation, if you go back to when you first started, you'll remember that it was hard to just be in that state of being, because you'd be bombarded with thoughts. And it doesn't take too long as you practice whatever method of meditation works for you on a daily basis, to learn how to not stop your thoughts, but detach yourself from them. Pay attention to where they arise from and let them go. And then eventually sort of be able to get into a state of simply being. And for me, it's wonderful, but it is temporary, because then you obviously get up and go do what you have to do. You get up from the chair, or if it's during a walk, if you do a moving meditation, or if you're doing a qigong exercise, or whatever form of meditation you adopt, at some point you have to stop and go into your day. And of course, I, like everyone else, have thoughts that come into my mind. You just simply get better at recognizing them, but when you're in the middle of the throes of whatever you're doing, it can be very difficult to stop the monkey brain, so to speak. And clearly this was a case of this woman thinking that she had, when she hadn't. Because meditation's wonderful, but of course, for me, probably because I obviously haven't attained any super high skill, but for me, it's fleeting. Once the session is over, and I come back to going through my day, it's a fight to stay present, and I of course work at it, but it is difficult to stay present. And by that I mean paying attention to what you're doing, where you were, what you're doing now, and what you're about to do. To just being able to do that constantly is a skill. Okay, so my next bullet point is the reality is people are deluded and often have blind spots about what they lack spiritually. And it's easy to have blind spots. I mean, let's be honest, we all have blind spots about something, generally. So sometimes it takes real introspection to know where you truly are. Like it or not, enlightenment is not easy. I wish it was, but it's not. It does take honest and true work, and I hope to get there one day in one lifetime, whether it's this one or another. I hope to get there, and my hunch is that people who have gotten there don't tell a single living soul. That's my thought. So as I just said, my next two bullet points are going to make that point. It may take lifetimes. And of course, also truly enlightened people would never claim to be. And that is my opinion. But I'm putting it in there because that's truly what I believe. Okay, so why does Derek call the chapter the Fourth Bun? And so the reason for that is it's a story that people in Chinese culture would be familiar with, called the Fourth Bun. And it simply is a story about a fool that thinks he can satisfy his hunger by eating only the fourth bun without having to consume the first three. The reality is, it doesn't work that way. We have to spend the time on all of the lessons of spirituality if we ever hope to obtain true enlightenment. Just as the fool thought he could, heard of a story where eating 4 buns satisfies your hunger and thinks he can just eat the fourth one and he'll be fine because it's the last one you have to eat. Well, no, spirituality isn't like that. You can't just jump to the last lesson where you complete that and boom, you're there. It's a process. It's a journey. A journey that everyone in this meeting, or not in this meeting, but listening to this recording, because we're all part of the same spiritual community, and we walk the path together. And it can't be that journey. You can't take a shortcut and jump on an airplane and fly over the hard parts. You have to walk the path, walk the way every day. So spiritual wisdom takes learning all the parts of a very balanced way of living. No one can jump to the end, complete the last step, and have that desired wisdom. And what I think about at this, the reason why I use the word balanced, think about how human behavior is so easily changed. How we react or behave can be determined on how much sleep we had, how hungry we are, having had a disagreement with our spouse, having been frustrated by caring for an older parent, our hang-ups that we all have, going back to sometimes childhood. All of these things can affect our behavior. But when you start out on a true spiritual journey, you take steps to become balanced. You get the right amount of sleep. You eat at the right time. And what's the right time? When your body tells you that you're hungry. How do you know that? Because you listen to your body. Those are very sort of concrete lessons, right? And then, of course, there's many abstract ones, right? There's more to it than just that. There's a spiritual practice, whatever that is for you, whether that's meditation, whether that's a true effort to educate yourself on the reality of the world, whether it's asking every day, how can I be kind? How can I live a life of loving kindness? And so it's the totality of behavior and that effort to do all the parts, get the right amount of sleep, spend time on your spiritual practice, get the right amount of exercise, be loving to those in your life, cultivate your relationships. All of those things and many others are steps, lessons that you have to master along the way. And if you truly put in the work and are willing to take that long journey that starts right with under our feet, and if we do that, then enlightenment will be ours. It's not a question of when, I believe. I'm sorry. It's not a question of if. It's a question of when. It's there for the taking. But you have to be willing to do the work. Here in the West, and elsewhere in the world too, society bombards us with get-rich-quick schemes, or attain weight loss with a pill instead of eating healthy food at the right times and taking a bit of daily exercise. It is all the same idea. You can get what you desire without having to put forth any effort. As silly as it may sound, people fall for it every day. Their desire is a good desire, but the body or mind is weak and wants the instant gratification. To have true attainment of anything worth having, it takes work. There are no shortcuts. Even if you possess natural ability, you often see this in sport. Someone has great athletic talent, but never wants to learn the fundamentals of a particular game or practice daily. They will never be Michael Jordan. Sure, he had great natural talent, but he also worked diligently at the game of basketball. Remember the story of the fourth bun. To get sustenance, you need all 4 buns. not just the fourth. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope I said something that was of use to you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I would like to recommend the Tao of Joy Every to you, a great book to use daily to help one study and learn the Tao teachings and put them into action.